Okay. Good evening. My name is Suzanne Ryan, Chairman of the ZBA. I'd like to call a meeting to order of August 26, 2024 at 6:05. The roll call, I will announce the voting members first, which actually they all are voting members. We have no alternates here. Okay, wait, I'll take care of that. Suzanne Ryan, Chair, voting member. Audrey Klein, Vice Chair, voting member. Jody Persons, voting member. Alternates Chuck Sumner and Sabette Strawman. Now, in the absence of Sarah Silk and Kate McMahon, who have been excused for the record, I will appoint Chuck Sumner and Sabette Strawman in their place. The first order of business, hopefully quickly we can go through the minutes of July 25th. And the only thing I saw on the July 25th minutes was the absence of the absent member, Jody Persons, was excused. Just like to note that. Other than that, I didn't see anything. Did any of the members see anything that needed correcting on the July 25th? Do I have a motion to accept the July 25th, 2024 minutes as amended?
I'll make that motion to accept the July 2025 minutes as amended.
Second.
Okay, so Audrey made the motion and Chuck seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, that's unanimous. The minutes of August 5th, 2024. I had one correction on the last page, down at the bottom of the page, within the motion that was made. Let's see, I want to put it. After, on the 1, 2, third line down, after the period and before Sarah Silk, and add, and there will be a new application for special exception, or we will keep the variance application. We have, and the applicant will submit answers to all our questions. Do I have a motion to accept? Are there any other corrections? Do I have a motion to accept the minutes of what did you say, August 5th as corrected?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Sabette, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, so that takes care of that item. Now we'll go on to unfinished business. Okay, so the unfinished business was for a variance application for Howell, and I keep using what's the name? Fitz what? Frizzell. Because you're presenting it for them, so to keep the record straight. So that was a continuation for 17 King Pine Road, Unit 2, and it was case number 10V24. And it was a public hearing for a variance under 175-43A1C to allow an expansion of 25% of a non-conforming structure. We continued the meeting in order to get feedback from our interim planner and our council, and to give you opportunity to answer the questions that we put in the form of a list. And I think we've satisfied that. The list part maybe will come up again, but at this meeting right now, I think for the purpose of the variance, we got the questions answered. So what I've come to realize through our attorney and the planner is that this variance application doesn't apply, and that that the ZBA doesn't have jurisdiction over this application under the variance clause. However, we do intend to process the application under special exception. So what I'd like to do at this time is make a motion that the continued hearing of August 5th, 2024 for a variance for Howell Frizzell case 205-1902 and that was case number 10V24, section 175-43A1C, which was expansion, a tear down and a replacement of that unit with an expansion going up. I move that the ZBA has no jurisdiction on this case under the variance 175-43A1C, and as such, a special exception is required, and I close this case at this time. Is there any discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Oh, yeah, thank you.
How about a motion?
Did you want to second that?
Yes, she did make a motion.
She did, okay.
I'll second the motion.
And discussion? Okay, roll call vote that we don't take jurisdiction over the variance on this application. Chuck?
Agree.
Ryan, yes.
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 Unanimous. Okay, so that brings us to the meat of the issue, which is now, I would like to open a public hearing for Howell Frizzell, special exception 175-43A1J. And Audrey, will you please read from the agenda the case and the case number? And I would like it noted in the minutes that we did do a site visit. I think it was August 5th. This one.
Public hearing for Leonard and Nancy Howell, tax map 205-19-02, 17 Kings Pine Road, Unit 2, case number 12-SE-24. Public hearing for a special exception under Chapter 175-43A, 1J of the Wolfeboro Planning and Zoning Ordinance to allow for expansion in excess of 25% of a non-conforming structure.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to open the public hearing at this time, and I'd ask the applicant if he would step forward and speak to us about the material that he's handed in, the questions that he's answered, and at the end, read the application with the 8 points. Please, thank you.
Sure. This is much louder than the last one. Okay, yes. So the project is for, as you said, rebuilding a small cabin, and we are building up vertically. And then that is the only expansion into the non-conforming area. There's addition of decks, the deck, and the bulkhead, but those are in the conforming area of the building. And so I'll first address the sheets that you've received, the updates. So we went back and forth after the last meeting to confirm with our architect the calculation of these figures. And there were some adjustments based on our revised understanding from the last meeting. And so that's what the updated documents in front of you are showing. So there's going to be small tweaks to the exact percentage and the shading that shows you. You've gotten an updated diagram that shows you the shading of the habitable space in the loft, because I know that was one of the things we were discussing at the last meeting that seemed very important. And so those have been...
A little tiny bit louder.
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah. So you can clearly see both in the, I think they're labeled SE, are I think probably the most valuable diagrams to look at based on our conversations. And that shows you the visual representation of the habitable space in the loft and compares it to the existing footprint, as well as the other diagram on that page, which does the same thing for the cabin's height. So those have been clearly delineated. So that addresses the, and then I also did include a cover letter, which I won't read through the entire thing because don't want to take up that much time, but it does line by line kind of address each of the board's concerns from the last meeting. So if you do want me to kind of fill in any more detail on any of those, just please let me know, but I don't know if it's valuable use of time for me to read through that here. And then the last thing was to read through the application. Yeah, okay. Let me pull it up. So this is for 17 Kings Pine Road, Wolfeboro. It's a special exception for Article 6 of Section 175-43 of the Wolfeboro Planning and Zoning Ordinance. Tax, like all of it, tax map, all the details?
Just read, go through the list, 1 through 8.
Oh, the 1 through 8, sure, yeah, okay.
You can,
Okay.
you can read the introduction if you want.
Sure. So the zoning ordinance is to permit the expansion of interior space of a small cabin to include an upstairs loft for storage. The cabin is currently 562 square feet, and we want to add another 182 square feet, which is a 32% increase. That is one of the numbers that got revised, and that this sheet did not get updated. So those are now 190 and 36% based on the updates from the last meeting.
Can you just go slower through that? Because between trying to hear you and look at this, I didn't really catch the numbers. So where are they on here?
Yeah, so if you on SE1,
Yeah?
so you'll see there's a calculations on the top there.
So total habitable space within the non-conforming area. This is, you're showing what's to be, not what is existing non-conforming?
Yes, there should be setback lines included on those diagrams, I believe, if you're looking at the one
Yeah,
I think
I
you
see
are.
that.
That should show what is non-conforming.
Okay.
So the numbers are 190 square feet, 36%. And so it's a 1950s cabin. It's on sonotubes that shift with frost, so it doesn't currently have a foundation. We want to update the interior and bring it up to environmental standards. We are limited. We cannot expand beyond the current footprint per our condo association rules. On to number 1, site suitability. This is the specific site is an appropriate location for the proposed use or structure, includes addressing adequate usable space, adequate access, and absence of environmental constraints. It's the exact same site as the existing unit, and the use of resources is identical, including usable space, access, and environmental constraints. For immediate neighborhood impact, it says that the proposal is not detrimental, injurious, obnoxious, or offensive to the abutting properties in particular and to the neighborhood in general. Typical impacts which extend beyond the proposed site include things like, and I'm going to repeat them in the answer, so I'll just skip to that. Our cabin plans have been approved by the KPL Condo Association, and the updates are essentially the same as many of the cabins in the association, which have also modernized while adding loft storage and unfinished basements. The structure is a small cabin, and its use is not changing with this proposal. The abutters have been notified, and the abutters to the west, east, and south are all part of the KPL Condo Association. The abutter to the north has no habitable structure in the vicinity of the proposed cabin. Drainage only affects the KPL Condo Association, and if anything, noise pollution will be reduced by more effective sound dampening materials. There are no proposed changes to trip generation, dust, glare of heat, smoke, fumes, gas, odors, or hours of operation. Actually, probably a reduction in gas since we are replacing a gas stove with an electric stove. There are no substantial changes. Oh, so number 3, sorry, I skipped ahead. There will be no undue nuisance or serious hazard to pedestrian or vehicular traffic, including the location and design of accessways and off-street parking. There are no substantial changes that will impact pedestrian or vehicular traffic or the location and design of accessways and off-street parking. Each condo unit does have an approved parking spot, and all condo members have approved this proposal. On to number 4, availability of public services and facilities. That the following services and facilities are available and adequate to serve the needs of the use designed and proposed, including sewer, water, stormwater, drainage, fire protection, streets, parks, and schools. Since this is a replace-in-kind project, there is no increase in bedrooms, bathrooms, or allowed occupancy, and therefore no impact on any infrastructure, sewer, water, roads, schools. The proposal does not alter the existing usage of public services, including sewer, water, fire protection, streets, parks, and schools, and changes to the drainage only affect KPL condo members, as mentioned previously. We have received their approval. Appropriateness of the site plan, consideration shall be given to the following: parking scheme, traffic circulation, open space, fencing and screening, landscaping, signage, commercial vehicles, and lighting. The proposal does not alter any of the following: parking scheme, traffic circulation, open space, signage, commercial vehicles, or lighting. The proposal expands the deck, which remains entirely in the conforming part of the structure, not in the setback. The front door overhang and the basement bulkhead are also not in the setback. The proposal also adds an unfinished basement. Its height will vary. It will be sloped, but will not exceed 6 foot 6 1/4 inches. It has also received shoreland impact approval from the state, conditional on receipt of this special exception. For the number 6, immediate neighborhood integrity, that the uses and established use patterns be weighed with recent change trends in the neighborhood. There will be no negative impact on surrounding properties, as we are placing the cabin in exactly the same place as it was before. The neighborhood will be enhanced by an updated cabin that more closely resembles its neighbors. Impact on property values, number 7, that the proposed use will not cause or contribute to decline in property values of adjacent properties. It should increase the value of the houses around us by improving the overall curbside appeal of the condo association. The new cabin will be more efficient and environmentally friendly. Number 8, the proposed use or structure is consistent with the spirit of the ordinance and the intent of the master plan. We are not impacting the underlying infrastructure of the condominium by this increased storage area. We are keeping the cabin exactly the same footprint, which we are lower than the maximum height required by our condo association, which is stricter than the zoning, and we are only expanding interior space in order to increase storage space. The proposed structure is in the shorefront residential district, and the use is compatible with that zone. The proposed use and structure are consistent with the intent of the Wolfeboro master plan. The proposed structure complies with the Town of Wolfeboro Shoreland Regulation and the New Hampshire Shoreland Water Quality Protection Act. That was the last one. So that's the application.
That's it. Thank you. Board members, did you get the paperwork handout this evening dated 8/26 from Mr. Howell regarding 10 points?
Yes.
I think some of the points are important to bring to light for clarification. An issue I had was loft storage size, and that expansion is only a vertical expansion. It's not being calculated as habitable space. And they've shown that in the plan. The loft will be used for storage only. The loft will be accessible by a ladder. The loft will be separated by half walls. The cabin is restricted to 2 bedrooms. The other item I thought was interesting, and any of you are welcome to read any that come to your attention that you would like to read or discuss. Sill height was a question. Questions were raised about the sill height with consensus that the drawings were not adequate for the issue. We would like to emphasize that this existing cabin does not have a foundation and the sill is currently on plywood subfloor. The proposed cabin will increase the sill height by 7.1 inches, which is within the 24 feet allowable by code. Basement, this was an interesting one to me as well. The board raised the question about the basement. We would like to clarify that the basement will be unfinished. It will have a maximum height of 6 feet 4 inches. Average height is expected to be considerably less given the grade and possibly water table. Given the condo has restrictions, given these restrictions, it would be more adequate per code to call it a crawl space and not a basement. So that means it's storage. Setback encroachment, the board expressed concern that there may be further encroachment into the setback. The building will not be encroaching into the setback, and we are submitting a statement from our architect that this is not the case. Given the facts, it is our belief that we qualify for a special exception. So if any of the board members see anything else they'd like to highlight on this two-page letter we got tonight, feel free.
No, I want to ask, last time I think we mentioned, and I don't know if it was determined, whether they have to go for another Wolfeboro shorefront permit because it's within the 150 feet, or if the one they have is adequate, or if they're going to do it later. It doesn't really impact what we decide on. I was just curious as to what the outcome of that was.
If we didn't get an answer from our planner or our attorney, I would set that aside, only to say that in regards to,
I think it's mostly to do with
stormwater.
Stormwater. And there's a letter in here.
that's all I've got is stormwater.
Yeah, okay.
And that an engineer's, and it will be one of the conditions if we approve this, and it will be that an engineering plan for stormwater management will be required prior to a building permit being issued.
Is that part of our purview?
If you read your information, that's in our information as advised that we do this.
Okay. I think generally that sounds like it would be under a
I'm just
planning
going
board
by what
opinion.
I've been given.
Okay. I have some comments about our process, nothing necessarily to do with anything specific on this application, but I think I can wait until we close the public meeting for that.
I would appreciate that. So board members, any questions thus far? Okay, so it's our responsibility to go through 1 through 8, and we don't vote on each one, but I'll remind the board, if when we go through these, if you see one of them that you feel that they do not qualify for or meet, then the overall vote of approval would have to be no. You have to agree that all 8 are met. Okay, so let's take turns going around the table.
I got to get to the right place.
It's in the application.
I know.
That's a special exception application, which was the newest one you got.
Yeah, I'm looking for page 1.
You don't need page 1, go
No, I
right
mean
to the
number
back.
1, whatever the
Yeah,
number 1 was.
page 6.
There it is.
Chuck, could you read number 1 and tell me your feelings on number 1?
Site suitability. Is this microphone on?
I cannot find mine.
The specific site is an appropriate location for the proposed use or structure. This includes adequate usable space, adequate access, absence of environmental constraints. The exact same site as existing unit is being proposed. Use of resources is identical, including usable space, access, and environmental constraints. And based on the paperwork and the proposed use, I would agree that the site is suitable.
I agree. Anybody want to weigh in on that?
I think it's appropriate.
What?
I think this is an appropriate use for this site.
Okay. All right. So let's go to number 2, immediate neighborhood impact. The proposal and the impact is not detrimental, injurious, obnoxious, or offensive to abutting properties in particular and to neighborhood in general. The typical impacts which extend beyond the proposed site include excessive trips, noise, dust, smoke, hours of operation. It basically is almost not applicable. They meet those requirements. And let's keep in mind, they're taking down what's there and duplicating it with the exception of a vertical expansion. And if they were just taking it down and replacing it in kind exactly as it is, they wouldn't need to be here. They would just go for a building permit. Any thought on that? Are we okay? Okay, number 3, Audrey, would you read number 3 or
Is this the right one?
paraphrase number 3?
That there will be no undue nuisance or serious hazard to pedestrian or vehicle traffic, including the location and design of access ways and off-street parking.
Does anybody see anything objectionable to
No,
Not-
it's not changing anything.
proposal being done? I see.
Not change anything.
Well, I mean, the deck's getting bigger, but that's not part of our purview, and we
I
don't
would
know
like to
about
make a
parking.
comment about this point, this quick point. My name's Randy Santoro. I am the president of the Kings Pine Lodges Condominium Association. I am an owner. We also have 2 other owners that abut this property, and we all support this application. I've talked to another owner this afternoon, and they support it also. So I just wanted you to know that KPO Condo Association has looked at the plans, and we support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, number 4.
Availability of public services and facilities. That the following services and facilities are available and adequate to serve the needs of the use designed and proposed: sewer, water, stormwater drainage, fire protection, streets, parks, schools.
So there's your stormwater drainage.
Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
I'm okay with it, yeah.
Number 5, Jody?
Appropriateness of site plan consideration shall be given to the following: parking scheme, traffic circulation, open space, fencing, screening, landscaping, signage, commercial vehicles, lighting impact.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
Well,
don't see
the
anything.
proposal expands the deck, which remains an entirely conforming part of the structure, not in the setback. The front door overhang and the basement bulkhead are also not in the setback. The proposal also adds an unfinished crawl space. Its height will vary. It has also received shoreline impact approval from the state, conditioned on receipt of this special exception. Okay, number 6, we'll go back to you, Chuck.
Immediate neighborhood integrity, that the uses and established use patterns be weighed with recent change trends in the neighborhood. Recent change trends, I'm not sure what that exactly would mean. In this case, several of the other condos in that association have been updated, and what they're proposing for this unit is consistent with the neighborhood. So I would say it meets the requirements for maintaining neighborhood integrity.
Yeah, it's an improvement, right? Any other comment?
No, I agree.
I agree.
Okay. Audrey, number 7?
Impact on property values, that the proposed use will not cause or contribute to decline in property values of adjacent properties. It should increase the value of the houses around us by improving the overall curbside appeal of the condo association. New cabin will be more efficient and environmentally friendly. True.
True? Yep.
Yep. Sabette, you want to do number 8?
The proposed use or structure is consistent with the spirit of the ordinance and the intent of the master plan. They're not impacting the underlying infrastructure. They're keeping it exactly the same footprint. The height is, I think, 6 feet lower than they could go, 24 instead of 30, is that correct? So they're still well within that. Storage space is not livable space, so I think it's all within.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Is there any other comment from the public while the public hearing is still open? No? Okay. So I'd like to close the public hearing, and the board will deliberate on their decision whether to approve or not this application.
Before you do that, Suzanne, you asked me to clarify area,
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, you can do that now.
because the public might have input on that.
Okay.
Can you talk a little louder?
All right. I had sent Chuck an email asking him, since he's the engineer mathematician, to clarify the existing square footage and what it is, so that we know going forward that it will be exactly in the same footprint. And because there's a couple of numbers that are different, I wasn't sure what it was.
Right, 562 square feet is the footprint on the original application. You had a number tonight of 529,
Yeah,
which is
and-
based apparently on interior dimensions.
And there's a number on the plan. What was that?
Right.
547,
It was 5 what?
547.
Yeah,
Proposed house.
547.
I'm assuming that might be around the outside?
What number do we want to record? Because
Well-
the outside is the 560.
So this kind of goes into some of the conversation I want to have about the approach to
Well,
these.
but we have to make a decision tonight on what is the square footage for this
I know,
project.
and what I was going to say is, how do we decide square footage based on the ordinance?
Well, that's up your alley. How do you usually do it?
Well, that's the thing. I went back and I pulled a couple of old special exceptions to find out whether, so what it looks like we do is we look at the area that is non-conforming, not the entire area, which is what this is showing, but just the area of the existing that's non-conforming. So it's going to be less than that 547, and we compare it percentage-wise just to the area that we're adding to that non-conforming area. So we wouldn't include this front blue space because that's not in the setback. So what we've been doing now is comparing the full square footage and adding that percentage to the small area that's non-conforming, and that doesn't line up. I think this complies, well, obviously, because we're looking at, whatever the percentage is, whether it's less than 25 or more than 25, doesn't matter, it's a special exception, but going forward, we need to figure out what it is that we're supposed to be looking at so we can direct the applicants as to what square footage we want to see.
Attorney?
Oh, good, an attorney.
I'm happy to weigh in on this on behalf of the Howells as the applicants. We read this
Your name?
provision in detail. My name is Attorney Philip Marbury from here in Wolfeboro, here on behalf of the applicants. We read this provision, and I agree, there is an ambiguity written in here. But as we really tried to parse out the language, especially of paragraph C there, it says any non-conforming portion, so here we're just talking about the portion, of a building or structure may be expanded. So it's talking about an expansion that would include the non-conforming part. But the next language is really important. By no more than 25% of the non-conforming building. And that language is indicating the whole structure. And so we agree, if we would have used the numbers of just the non-conforming part, it would have been even more favorable to the Howells. It would have been a less percentage.
Yeah.
So as I read this and I consulted with my clients, I believed that the best approach was actually to use the entire structure, because the non-conforming portion renders the entire building non-conforming, right? But there is still, for certain parts of the coding of the code and the ordinance, there are things that deal with just the non-conforming part and the conforming part. But I think for purposes of calculating this percentage, admitting there is some ambiguity in the language, I think the best approach is to take the entire square footage of the non-conforming building as it stands originally, which the architect has confirmed is 529, using the best practices that she articulated, and then comparing it to the expansion of the entire non-conforming building, which in this case vertically is 190 square feet. And that's how the 35.9 percentage change or increase has been calculated. But it is entirely vertical. There is no expansion horizontal. And again, if we used just the non-conforming portion to come up with that percent, it would be far lower. And so I think the Howells have done, they have presented the board the worst case scenario, which I believe in this case is still very reasonable and acceptable under the ordinance.
Okay, please don't go away.
Sure.
The point that I was trying to get at, because we've got a number of 529, 547, and 562. But what I'm trying to get at is when the building is raised, what was sitting on the ground for square footage at that time, so that that foundation goes back in the same place as it was?
Yes, I can assure you it is being built in the exact same footprint. It's possible Dustin may know the details. The architect confirmed to us that the square footage of the existing floor plan was 529 square foot. Now, whether that's just interior walls or if that's to the outside of the siding, that may have a slight variability there, but it's going to be constructed in the exact same manner as it currently was. I believe the 529 is interior, counting habitable space, and so that may account for why there's a number that's slightly larger that would include to the actual exterior of the siding of the structure. But no change in that will be made. It will be in the exact same footprint as it currently stands.
Well, what number do we give the building inspector when he goes out and measures what's there and then goes back and measures what's been put in the ground? I'm not talking about habitable space.
Sure.
I just.
So I think that those dimensions are on here.
The most recent.
And I would suggest
We don't
you
have,
use it.
it's 22 feet, 8.5 by, I'm sorry, the print's still really small for me, by 20, looks like 26 feet, 9 inches.
Well, on the plan, there are two dimensions labeled. There's a footprint width of 22 feet 4 inches and the 25 feet 3 inches.
That's the one.
Those are
That's the one.
identified as footprint
Footprint.
dimensions. And if you do use that number, it's actually slightly over 562.
Yeah, and I would say the plans articulate all of those different numbers. And so for as far as the building code inspector going out to ensure that it complies, it needs to comply with all of those different numbers. But for purposes of calculating the percentage, again, there's ambiguity, but we use the interior square footage in this case because it's talking about habitable space. There's also numbers there that talk about the increase of height and that percentage. But I would say as far as just ensuring that it's built exactly in the same footprint, the plans do give all of those detailed numbers for interior, exterior, et cetera.
They do. These plans show all those numbers. So this plan when given to the building inspector, he should be able to determine where the foundation goes.
What was the number for the footprint?
529?
I don't know that the number's there, but the numbers are there to figure it out. They're all
Oh,
there.
They didn't give you a total for the footprint, square footage?
I would have to check to
Calculate it.
I would have to calculate it to see which one it is, but there's a total, including the overhangs, not including the overhangs, to the concrete, and then I think there's one to the inside of the walls, too. So,
And if I may add, I don't think we need to necessarily have that exact number as long as we have the numbers that are going to ensure the building is in the same place. And one of the conditions that the Howells have agreed to is that the surveyor will come in and certify that the footprint has been unchanged after construction. So I think there are myriad ways for the code enforcement officer to ensure that it is built in the exact same footprint. And the details of which number is used for different parts of the calculations I don't think are necessary for the point of establishing that a special exception is appropriate using the same footprint as it exists and as the plans indicate.
well, since you're up here, where in the language did you see it speak to habitable versus non-habitable space?
You're absolutely right. This is another point of discussion that we had, and I think that there's probably room to improve the language of the ordinance on some of these points, because there is a distinguishment between habitable and uninhabitable for different things, but it's not clearly articulated in this special exception what is relevant there. And so again, what we did as our approach was to give you the numbers most that would demonstrate the greatest number of change, so that as a board you can make a decision knowing that it's that or less.
You also gave us the ones we asked for.
Correct.
So I did go back and I looked at a couple of other special exceptions from 2009, I think, because I couldn't really, frankly, find any recent ones. And Matt, the former planner, they were talking about habitable space, but they didn't ever really define what they meant by that. There's definitions for habitable space, which we asked this applicant to go by. So that's the question. Is this supposed to only be habitable space all the time? That's, I think, the way that it's been used.
I'm just going to proceed with this application from the information that they gave us in writing on the application, and then the guidance that we got, and that has not been defined or raised by the town planner or the attorney about habitable space. So what I would think that we could do, since I'm the one that's hung up with square footage, because if it's not put in the same place, then we're into maybe a setback issue, but I will forego that and address it if we get to an approval. I will address it through the two plans that we have.
Okay.
So
Let's close this out, because I think we have a lot of work to do on the language in this section that we can talk to our attorney about, and maybe an
Well,
open
we're gonna-
session after this case is over.
that's after the fact, I hope.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it is, but this is
Okay,
a
so I'll
common
close the
occurrence.
public hearing, seeing there's no further comment from the public. Okay, we have been through the 8 criteria. The board has a sense of how they feel about those for a special exception. So I would entertain a motion to, and there's going to be a list of conditions with this, to approve the Howell Frizzell application for 18 King Pine Road, Unit 2, Case 12, SE 24, map 205-1902, for a special exception under 175-43A1J. And the special exceptions to follow with that would be, in no particular order, I probably should have put them in a better order, but an engineering stormwater plan, management plan will be given to the building department before the building permit is issued. Comment? 2, loft created by vertical expansion shall be as stated on the application, in quotes, for storage only. 3, the replaced, let's see, this is the one I'm going to get stuck on. The replaced condo unit will be on the same footprint as represented in the plan of Linden Design 2003 and White Architects 2024.
6/10/2024.
Well, I can't read it, 6/10/2024. Leanne, did you catch that? I hope I said it correctly. Okay. Basement. The basement/crawl space is for storage only as stated on the application. And
But we did say they could have a washer dryer down there.
that's their problem.
Yeah, that's nothing to do.
If they,
Okay, but when you say
if they
storage
can,
only.
if they can fit, they can have it.
Okay, so that falls under storage only.
Can you finish your conditions? Because I have some comments about some of these. I would like to get the list first.
The application as submitted to the ZBA does not satisfy the submitted requirements for a building permit. The notice of decision shall be recorded at the Carroll County Registry of Deeds, and the applicant shall be responsible for the payment of all recorded fees. The special exception shall be valid if exercised within 2 years from the date of the final approval, or as further extended by the local ordinance or by the Zoning Board of Adjustments for good cause. All federal, state, and local permits to be received, including but not limited to the Town of Wolfeboro building permit approvals. This decision can be appealed within 30 days from the date of this decision. That's my list.
So I'm going to make an amendment to that for discussion, and I don't think that.
To what specifically?
I'm about to tell you.
Okay.
I don't think that it is up to us to dedicate certain uses to certain spaces. I don't think that applies to this process. So I don't think it's up to us to say that the loft is for storage only or the basement is for storage only. I would amend this to leave out those 2 conditions and leave that up to the building department, the fire department, or the other people that are responsible for that.
But I think you have to say the loft is non-habitable space.
Why?
I think
I
that's,
thought that was in the ordinance.
Talk into your
Microphone?
talk into your microphone.
Go ahead,
you go,
Judy.
you go.
I thought it specifically said that somewhere, about that it needed to be non-habitable.
What?
For the
hang on.
loft.
What needed to be non-habitable?
The loft
The
did.
the expansion of space.
yes.
Had to be
I
non-habitable.
thought I read that somewhere.
No. It doesn't. In fact, most of these expansions are for habitable space. Expansions of non-conforming are typically for habitable space.
We can go round and round about habitable space and non-habitable
I'm just
space.
explaining to her question.
Okay,
All right, you did.
Right.
okay.
So I don't believe it says that.
Well, I trust
Anywhere.
you more than
Okay.
me, if your knowledge
And,
of the...
and again, I don't think that's our place to say how that we're approving it only based on a certain use. This is not a use application, it's an expansion of physical properties
Of the structure.
of the
Of
structure.
the structure, not inside is like she's saying would be building department, would be
Right.
fire.
When somebody, this application won't follow with that building permit. When somebody states specifically what they're asking for and why, it's our job to reflect that in our decision.
I would say let the paperwork speak for itself and not leave it in a condition.
This is how things get messed up. If you don't put the specifics in your motion of approval or disapproval, then it gets messed up.
So what would be messed up about it?
It becomes living space up
But
there.
that's not our
It-
concern.
My concern is what's on an application is supposed to be
Well, wait,
truthful.
it shouldn't be living space because they don't have a permanent staircase to go up there. They're just using a ladder that they're propping against.
That's
I
not,
have a
that's
ca-
not
I
our
have
concern.
Yeah.
So they could actually change this and add stairs because our concern is the increase of space, not the design on the inside. You said you don't care if they put a washer dryer downstairs. Well, you can't say it's for storage and then say you don't care how they use it. It's not our purview to say how they use it.
They have to go through
If,
the
no,
proper-
the thing of it is, if they got their crawl space tall enough to put a washer dryer in there, that happens unbeknownst to us. We would make it clear that it's, the crawl space is for storage, because that's what they're asking for. If they were asking for habitable space, they would have asked for that, and they're not asking for that. But
So-
beyond that, if I could finish,
Yep.
I have a cabin that has a ladder that goes to the loft that I sleep in. So you can use a ladder to get up into a loft and sleep in it.
I
At
just
any
didn't know
rate,
if that meant.
I don't know
I'm
you-
not going to argue the point any
So-
further. You've made your point. I'll call the question.
That's what I was going to ask you to do is call the amendment.
Do I have a second to
Amendment.
Audrey's motion?
My amendment
I
is.
know your motion.
Well,
She's got
do
your
you know
motion.
my, do you know my, do you have my motion? Yes, okay, and you.
And we should
you got it.
vote on that. We
Right.
should vote on whether or not we
That's what
agree.
she's asking
Oh, I'm
for.
sorry. Okay.
Well, she's asking for a second from anybody.
I need a second to Audrey's motion.
I second her.
I need
second
a
her.
roll, you're seconding,
Yeah, I'm second her.
to eliminate those two provisions that I had as a condition of approval.
Yes.
Okay. Roll call vote. Those in favor of Audrey's motion?
Yes.
No.
Yes,
Yes. Drum roll.
I know, I'm deciding. Not that it matters.
no, but you do have to decide.
I know. I'm going to go with Suzanne.
Okay. The motion carries 3-2. You did say no.
Passed.
I said no.
The motion carries 3-2,
To amend.
okay?
So it
So
is
those two
amended.
provisions will be taken out of my motion, okay?
I will later.
Then the question,
So I'll second your motion, your original motion.
okay, so the question is to approve with the conditions that I listed minus the two that we've voted to eliminate. Roll call vote, those in favor of approval of this application, special exception?
Yes.
Chuck, yes. Suzanne, yes.
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 And that's roll call by name? Yep, thank you. Okay, that closes this public hearing. You're all set. You may proceed.
Are we allowed to have like an educational session about this a little bit more?
I think, as I mentioned before, I think this
Wait, Can we
section,
wait till they clear out, because it's so hard
Okay.
to hear. I'm having a
All right.
difficult time.
Thank you.
And I don't think, okay, general discussion. I don't think this is the appropriate night to have that discussion.
no, I think we need some professional
We can-
guidance.
Well,
Yeah.
we can get that at a future meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's on
So to
what?
answer your question, I think
I
that
don't think we should discuss anything to do with our
I'm not.
discussion.
I'm discussing the discussion.
No, don't discuss the discussion.
I'm going to discuss the
Well,
discussion
you can-
because I think that it's very confusing language. I think that we need to know what we're navigating with this, and that this is something
Point
that
well
comes up
taken.
all the time.
Point well taken.
What I would suggest is
Microphone.
You know, we're not
what-
supposed to discuss
Suzanne,
anything
hold on.
relevant to this case.
I know,
So
hold on. This isn't relevant to this case.
The point has been well taken. Audrey would like for us to get professional counsel
And
on
I'm
that
asking,
issue.
how do we make sure that happens? I'm just asking to circle back
I will take care of
around.
it for you somehow with either the town council or the interim planner and have them sit with us if necessary.
Yeah, that would be, I think that would be
If they
great.
can.
Yep.
All right, I'll work on it.
So
Motion to adjourn.
It does make sense because they're still under an appeal period, so we want to kind of stay away from the discussion of that.
Motion to
Okay.
adjourn.
Are we done?
Yeah.
We don't have anything?
I second the motion. We're adjourned.
Yes, sure. I vote yes.
Adjourned.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
You can do that.